Good afternoon, makers. Welcome back for our second virtual making tutorial. It is me, Roman, back at it here from my living room again. You might notice some new posters on the wall behind me. Just doing some interior decorating here while I'm quarantined. So I wanted to start off today by wishing everyone a happy Earth Day. Today is actually the 50th Earth Day since it was established by someone very cool 50 years ago. Not sure who. But in the spirit of that, I thought it would be cool if we tried to do a sort of like upcycling craft today with some materials that are somewhat wasteful inherently, but that we have around a lot. So the main material that we need for our workshop today is the good old friendly plastic shopping bag. You may have seen one sort of floating in the air through Millville, kind of like that scene in American Beauty or that Katy Perry song. If you don't know what I'm talking about, ask your parents or older siblings for that reference point. But yeah, so we see these all the time. We get them at most places where you purchase things, and they tend to pile up a lot. So unless you want to donate some to somewhere that needs bags, this is a cool thing that you can do with shopping bags. So for today's workshop, all we're going to need is a bunch of plastic shopping bags, some scissors, some markers, and some cardboard. So basically what we're going to be doing, and you may have seen videos like this before, but we're essentially going to be making our own version of like yarn. Got to use the air quotes there because it's not really like yarn at all, but it functions like yarn out of these plastic bags. And essentially what we're going to do today is make a loom using this cardboard, and we're going to take our yarn to make something like this. I'll show you the last steps here once we get to that point. This is, essentially at a small scale. It could be used for a lovely coaster, or perhaps a decorative piece in your home or a home of a loved one. But I encourage anybody with lots of time and lots of plastic bags to try to make one big enough to be like a doormat or something. Much like any kind of, weaving activity, the only sort of, obstacle you have to make it as big as you want is how big you make your loom. Great. So we're going to start off by cutting a piece of cardboard to the size of our loom that we would like. I'm just going to, for my demo one, use this kind of rectangle here. And we're going to go ahead. So we're gonna hold it horizontal, sort of like hamburger style, right? And on, well, I guess it doesn't really matter which way you hold it, but essentially on the long sides, we want to have lines that are about a ½ inch in from the edge and go all the way down. So I'm using a marker as my half inch kind of like measuring tool. It's not really precise, but it's all about approximates, right, guys? DIY. All right, cool. So we are going to start by making those lines that I mentioned like 30 seconds ago. And we're going to go down. All right, slide the marker. If you're using this marker technique, there's a good chance you'll get some marker on your fingers, so maybe use some washable markers. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side, like so. Cool. So you should have something that looks basically like this to start off. The next thing we're going to do to make our loom is cut little slits on both sides to the line from the edge. And we want those to be about the size of your pinky. About a little bit smaller than a ½ inch, actually. So kind of think about that. We'll cut both sides here. And we want them, the more consistent sort of distance between cuts you can keep, that'll just make your life easier once we get to the weaving stage. Yeah, I don't know, just a good fun tip. So we'll keep going. And another one is that if you can do your best to try to kind of match up your slits with cuts on the other side so that it's almost like there's an imaginary line going down like this. That'll just make your life easier as well. As always, I want to put out the disclaimer that I am by no means a professional plastic bag weaver. But you know, I am of course a maker, just like yourself. So I welcome everybody to try this and not get too frustrated if it doesn't work at first. I got a little bit frustrated, but nothing too crazy. My new cat Carl was chilling and fine with everything. I'm hoping he'll make a guest appearance. He's actually like kind of over there right now, but we'll see if he pops up. All right, cool. So once we have our loom ready, the next thing we need to do is get our yarn ready, right? So again, we're making that out of the plastic bags. What you're gonna want to do is sort of flatten out as much as you can. If you have an iron, you can do that too. But you just want to get these bags like as flat, you know, kind of as possible together. And then once we have them about ready, we're gonna make 2 cuts to start. One to cut off the bottom of the bag and one to cut off the handle side of the bag. So we can do that rather quickly. Wow, this is a nice bag. I don't know which one this is for, but some lovely purple there. And color does matter. You'll see once we get to the weaving stage that you know, if you want to have some nice kind of like variety in the look of your piece that you end up creating, having a couple different colored bags would be cool if you could find them. You know, usually they come in variations of white and gray and blue, so it's not, you know, super exciting necessarily, but a little bit of variety, you know, guys. The spice of life, the root of character, you know? All right, cool. So once we get our bag to this spot, we're gonna kind of just start cutting. I've been trying to do 2 inches apart, and we're just gonna cut strips. So about 2 inches wide, the length of the bag here. And what that's actually gonna create will sort of be these loops, sort of like ringlets. As you can, you know, kind of conceptualize if you think about the construction and design of a standard plastic shopping bag. So, oh, Carl's coming close, guys. Everyone might get a Carl sighting. We'll see. Carl, come hang out. No, it's okay. I understand if Carl wants to be practicing social distancing even in the home place. He's a very conscientious cat. All right, cool. So, and the next step, once we have some loops, and you'll want to cut way more than this. I'm just trying to move things along here so we can see kind of every little piece of every step. To make our strands of yarn, we're going to take our 2 loops, right? One, you can kind of think of this as like your starting loop, and you'll take your tying loop, okay? And we're going to come up around our tying loop, like so. Then we're going to have to put this side through again, and you want it to make sure it goes through both loops so that whenever we pull it, it becomes one solid piece, right? Pretty cool, pretty malleable. Kind of like last week's tapigami activity. It's part of the fun of these workshops is sort of kind of reimagining the typical way that we view these materials that we're working with. You might remember that the tape, we like made that base unit of the tubes, which was kind of interesting, something different than you would usually do with tape. So yeah, you know, this was once a shopping bag. Now it's this cool piece here. And of course, you'll just kind of go on continuing. I'll make one more very quickly to show you guys so you can see that motion again. So again, we take our starting loop, our tying loop. Actually, you know what? What you'll really want to do is keep making them on top of one another. So I'll just add it to this one. So from last time, our tying loop kind of becomes our starting loop, right? We'll come up, we'll come through again, pull it out. Ugh. And if the bag falls apart like that just did to me, it means that you're probably pulling too hard. So you can very easily just kind of like tie on again if you want, or you can cut off the loose end and just make another link. Because essentially you're making just a big chain of these loops, right? That we can kind of keep using. So we'll come like this. And again, like I said, guys, be patient with yourself, you know? You're probably not weaving with plastic bags all the time. So if it doesn't work at first, just keep trying, right? Okay, cool. Got a nice loop there. So, just like, if you've never weaved before, it's nothing too crazy. It's important that we kind of try to like start off, we want to loop in here. Okay, so we're going to get our loop around, right? And I kind of like to, you can tie it if you'd like, but I've been kind of more interested in just sort of doing that firm tie and creating a loop around too. Okay, kind of like that. And then, yeah, so this will be then the first stage of our weaving. All right. Thank you for being patient with me, friends. Again, not a master plastic weaver. Cool. So once you're set, you got your loop, you're ready to go. You're just going to want to come down, find the corresponding slit on the other side. Cool. And then you're just going to start weaving. So when you come down, you can turn around. You just want to kind of come back behind that second piece, right? And then when we turn it around, we'll come right back forward. Okay? Same thing. Turn it around. All right. Pop it. Come down. Cool. Now I'm only going to do 2 more here. But obviously, you would want to go to the very end of your loom. Okay? But we'll just stop right here so we can see the next part of this technique. All right. So we can imagine if we were to go all the way down, that would be kind of the first part of establishing what we're going to do to make, to weave this creation. I also see we've gone over the 10-minute mark, so I'm going to do my best to kind of like wrap this up in the next like 2 or 3 minutes here. Because I know we all have short attention spans. I do too, and that is okay. So for the next part, this is where you would kind of want to use a different colored loop, but it doesn't seem like I have any, so I'll just make one more of the same. And you can just pay close attention so you can see the differentiation. So we'll make, another kind of loop chain for our yarn here, right? Okay. And now this time, of course, before we are sort of weaving back and forth like this, to create our base layer there. And I'm sorry, I feel bad for all of my, watchers who are avid weavers because some of this terminology is escaping me. So I'm sorry, Nora and other friends. But anyways, once we get our kind of first layer established there, what we're going to be doing for this next part, so is sort of weaving up in between, right? Kind of like snaking through these. So to get started, we're going to go ahead, we're going to tie this loop around. And interestingly enough, you can actually use the same technique that we have been using to tie these cords, just that sort of like double looping method, right? So we come through there. Bada bing, bada boom. Been watching a lot of Sopranos, so I keep saying bada bing, which is cool. Or maybe not, but I like it. All right, cool. So once we're established there, we are gonna just kind of start weaving. And it's, just like over, under, over, under. So I'll try to demonstrate what that looks like here. So we're gonna go, since we went over first, we'll go under, right? Then we'll have an over and an under. Okay, then we're coming back around, so we're gonna go under since we just went over before that. So now we're going back through. And the keys to remember is to over, under, right? It's sort of a good checkpoint whenever, maybe once you've done 2, try to double check that, I know it's sort of hard to differentiate here, but you'll know, whenever you're going over on the first line, the next line beneath it should be an under. And that's sort of how we end up getting the weaving technique. Cool. So once you get all the way through that, you're going to end up with something like this. I think there you can kind of see what I mean with that over-under kind of variation, right? If we're noticing those. And once you get to the very end, you have to kind of start by taking off these little loops, And if you want, you can kind of tuck in or cut off if you have some areas. Like I have a little bit extra there, so I'm going to cut it off a little bit. There's another technique that involves kind of like threading these in, which is another way you could kind of go about that if you see a loose loop. But from here, we're going to kind of just edge off a little bit and kind of loosen this up. So we're kind of removing these loops, guys, one by one. All right. I appreciate if you are still watching your endurance of spirit. That is remarkable. All right. Cool. Getting there. Lovely. All right. Do the same thing on the opposite side here. All right. Cool. Sweet. So now we sort of have this lovely weaved, I'm going to use mine as a coaster. I guess you could almost even use it as a face mask, but it probably wouldn't be that effective, so I probably wouldn't recommend that necessarily. And then we're just gonna have to, I had a big loop going here still from my weaving string, so I'm gonna cut that. All right. And then we had this from our first kind of string over here. And we're just gonna have to sort of tie these two together. It should be all set. All right. Cool. So you can actually kind of just tie these in little knots here and then clip them on the end. So that's what I'm going to do. And we will be all set. Thank you, everyone, for being patient while I try to sort this out in stream of conscious style. If you come to Makers regularly, you know that's not totally unheard of for me to do such a thing. But alas, it is a little bit more difficult. I'm not like a YouTuber like some of you guys, so I appreciate your patience. All right. Cool. All right. Once we make sure all of our ends are tied so that this won't come apart, our loops, you're all set. Now you have a cool coaster or thing to hang on your wall or mat or pad or whatever you want to use it for. And you'll notice, fairly sturdy. Got a couple, could have been a little bit tighter as I find out now. This is my first run ever, so I don't feel too bad about it. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know this was a little bit longer one today, but I appreciate everyone doing that. Yeah, I'll see you next week. Please feel free to send any projects over that you end up completing. We'd love to see them. And again, happy Earth Day. I hope everyone has a great week. Take care.